Now that we're getting more detailed, I'm going to introduce some new terminology. What I used to call the 5 basic skills, from this point on, we'll refer to them as the 5 standard operating procedures, or 5 SOPs. The 5 SOPs all rely on your ability to do 3 tasks with your compass. First task is to sight a distant object in your compass. So to sight, I simply line up my front sight and my back sight and that object all in a line. The rear sight, the front sight, and the object are all perfectly in one straight line. Notice that when the bezel turns, those 2 orienting lines, the 2 white lines now pointing down, move with it. Orienting the bezel to magnetic north simply means turning that bezel until those lines box in, lie on either side of your magnetic north, which is usually red, end of the needle. And that's task 2. The third task is to read the azimuth that you just set when you oriented the bezel. To do that, you find your index line, or in this case index pointer, and you read the number right opposite it, which in this case is exactly 90 degrees or due east. Now some compass bezels use only a few numbers instead of the standard 3 numbers to indicate an azimuth. If your compass bezel is like that, just multiply that number that you just read by 10. So 8 is really 80, 12 is really 120, 27 is really 270, and 34 is really 340. The first SOP is called shooting an azimuth to an object, and it means finding the azimuth to an object in an area that you've decided to walk to. You may have also heard it described as taking a bearing. To do it, we do the 3 tasks that you just learned, and we do them in the order that you learned them. Sight, orient, read. So I'll talk my way through it as I go. So I'm going to sight, orient, and read. I have the front, the object, I have the tree, the front sight, the back sight, all in one line. I orient the bezel, and I read the azimuth, which is 318th. The second standard operating procedure, or SOP, is called setting an azimuth, or you may have heard it described as setting a course. Once you know a specific azimuth that you want to walk, the question is, for example, if it's 110, the question is that way, or is it that way, or behind me? What direction on the ground is 110 degrees? Well, to figure that out, we use those same 3 tasks, but we do them in the reverse order. So, we read, we orient, and then we sight. So I'm going to walk through that now, talking it as I go. I'm setting my compass for 110 degrees, and I'm reading 110 degrees on my bezel. Turn it to set it and then read it. Now I'm going to rotate my body in order to orient the north needle. Okay, the needle is oriented, so now I need to sight something that's on this azimuth. And there's a crooked tree over there that's right on the azimuth. So I know that if I walk directly to that crooked tree, even if I get there by going like this, once I get to that tree, I know I've walked exactly the azimuth of 110 degrees. The third compass SOP, standard operating procedure, is called walking an azimuth. You just saw me read, orient, and sight an azimuth of 110 degrees while looking at a crooked tree right on that azimuth. Walking the azimuth simply means walking to that crooked tree. And once I'm at the tree, I'll walk around it so I'm on the other side, and I'll do the same procedure. It's already set, so I read it, orient my body to make sure I'm still aligned, oriented properly, and then sight a new object to walk to. The next SOP is called box stepping. You use it when you come to an obstacle like a pond or a marsh or a thicket that you don't want to try to walk through, so you have to walk around it. Box stepping means walking around it by turning 4 90-degree angles. The tree in back of me is going to represent our swamp, and I'm going to do this with the tree instead of a marsh, so it's in small enough scale for you to see. I'll shout it out and see if you can follow it. Obstacle, 90 degrees left, 1, 2. Back on my original azimuth, 90-degree turn, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm clear of the marsh, 90 degrees to the right. 1, 2. I'm back on the line that I started with, so 90 degrees left, and I'll be right back on my original course. The fifth SOP is one you use when you've decided to end your hike and you want to go back to your car or your base camp. This SOP is called aiming off, and it means that instead of shooting an azimuth directly to your car, you shoot an azimuth well to one side of it, to some linear feature like a road. And because you deliberately aim to the right of it, you know that when you get there, if you just turn left, you'll be able to walk right back to your base camp or your car. So take a look at the sketch that follows this segment, and I think that'll be clearer. So there you have it. 3 tasks: sight, orient, read, and 5 SOPs that will make you a competent land navigator on an unplanned hike. Now the only thing you're missing is how to determine the azimuth from your last hiking stop back to your base camp or car. I'll show you that on the next video, along with the SOPs in action when we take our unplanned hike together. Until then, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on down the trail.